him, don't pick up that, but like to be the kind of woman that inspires that man to naturally want to be better, right? And I think that that's that's the helpmate part, right?
Yeah. And men hate that
That
conversation
was another good
in
one.
these spaces. Men hate that only because I don't need no inspiration. Listen, that's what you get when you listen to a bunch of one percenters talk. That's why they call one percenters.
Right.
The W.E.B. Du Bois call it the
I call it rich man game. That advice works perfectly if you're already rich. But since the majority of us are not, then it falls into the line of mediocre to bad advice.
talented tenth. One tenth of men will have the drive all on their own. Okay, that is
Hold on,
not
Triple
most
Mike. Are
men.
you making my argument real right
No,
now?
no,
You
no.
guys are spitting
Wait. You
tonight.
heard me say this before.
Oh, Enos, that
It
she
is.
2 for 2 on that
It is
last part.
literally. It is literally the drive for most men, like Marcus said, to wake up every day and see that woman and those kids. That is his purpose for doing anything better than he did it the day before.
Welcome back to Money, Marriage, and Media. Today we are looking at the Lapeef experience. Woman says it's easier for a guy making $100K a year to get married. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, the more assets you have, the harder it is to vet. We're talking in spirit, in the reference of a guy. The harder it is to vet a woman because you have abundance and resources. Because you have so many options, it gets harder to whittle them down and to like, okay, well, just whittling down the ones who are not there just for your resources is hard enough. But then you've also got to match up on values and so forth. So no, that's not easier. And same thing is true for a woman. Is that you gotta? It's just as hard if a woman is earning that kind of money. It's hard for her to vet a husband too, because one, you got to be okay with being the breadwinner. Most women are not. So yeah, that alone in itself is hard. Then you got to vet the guy too and make sure he's not there trying to steal your money. But let's just go ahead and get started and see what we got here.
I do and I don't do this often, but I do disagree with Marcus. I think it is easier for them to get married because their options are much more limited. They don't have to vet quite as much. They don't have to sift through quite as much. They don't have to check somebody's intentions of why they're there. Is it a right fit? All of that stuff. The requirements for that garbage man are significantly different than the guy who fits the 666, right? The standards of living are not the same. All of that stuff. So as long as that woman is willing to sign up to his income, his lifestyle, all of that stuff, he's good to go because his requirements are not as hefty as the man who has significantly more options, right? So you're talking about, does your average woman want to marry that? The answer is no. The average woman wants to live a more comfortable lifestyle. However, there are still, because women are not a monolith, there's still a multitude of women that are marrying the bus drivers, the garbage drivers, the whatever, right? Y'all get the point. At the same time, right, I think that to what Ali is saying, yes, men hold the key to marriage, but I think women having substance is more of a rarity than it was before. I think more women are focused on the aesthetics of things and how Instagrammable things are, where the character component that men want to marry, those intangibles that we were all talking about, and the fact that men are not experiencing those things in women, I think those women have become a rarity, which is why men are opting out of marriage, right? Like in the real world, all of these things exist, right? It's just a question of what your immediate experience is.
Let me ask you a question.
Shout out to Instagrammable, by the way. Stealing that.
Do you think, because
I do like that.
Mistaken saw a survey, and the survey said that 83% of men choose women off of their physical. Okay, so do you think that the problem is the women that they find physically attractive are the women who they're saying, oh, they don't have access to it's not women, just women that they may be like, oh, she's the 10, the 9, the 8.
So no, right? Because I think
that is a big problem. Because this is when you start getting into about the conversation about men being delusional. It's like we get fixated on the aesthetics of a woman. Now, are there going to be exceptions? Yes, I've said it before that men will go down in looks to go up in cooperation, but the caveat there is that he still has to want to get to know you. So, and that is going to, whether or not you pass the eye test on that, that's going to be debatable. And even still there, well, look, let's just keep going.
How prevalent surgeries have become. The woman that used to be stuck being a 5 or 6 is now getting surgery to look like an 8, 9, 10, right? And makeup adds to that and all of this stuff. So I think that the quantity of women that sit between 8 and 10 has significantly increased. So there's no lack of beautiful women that men are looking for. And yes, these men are choosing them, but they're choosing them to sleep with them. They're not choosing them to marry them, because that X factor that men are looking for in marriage, it, like, no matter how many of these beautiful women exist, that X factor is still the thing that, like, is missing. And to your point, Shan, of what you said earlier, the fact that a lot of these billionaires' wives are homelier, I'll say that, is the fact that they're willing to marry that woman that has that X factor while they have those 8, 9s, 10s on the side that they play with, right? So
No, I disagree. When you see a couple like she's talking about, this high value couple, the majority of the time they married earlier before the guy had all those options. And this one of the reasons why he's able to become successful, believe it or not, is because, he finds one woman and it's almost like he's checking a box to say, okay, this part of my life is done. I don't need to worry about pursuing the constant search for a woman who I can marry, because believe it or not, that could take up a lot of time and resources. But once that's done, to say, okay, well, instead of me trying to go on 5 dates this week, I really just have to focus in on one woman. Whether or not they go on 5 dates, they're probably not, because his main focus is going to be his career. So it sounds callous to say that, but yeah, a lot of situations, this is a man checking off a box and building up, and he pulls that woman in, and she becomes an asset to him. So it helps. It actually springboards his career or his ability to build resources, because he doesn't have, because it's not taking all it. The focus from him vetting is not. It now can be he can now refocus on building instead of focusing on vetting. That's what I was trying to say.
So, like, but those are the men who have the resources to be able to handle that. And also that woman understands that man with that kind of resources is more of a rarity, and she may not be able to get that again, right? So she's not willing to give it up the same way as somebody who makes 50K a year with the same behaviors, right? But even the guy that's making 50K is still having a hard time finding women of substance. And I think the moment that women start to work on their character, their morals, their values, their boundaries, I think we'll start to see a lot more marriages, because men will be incentivized by that X factor.
I agree, and this always leads to another talking point that I constantly bring up, is that we got to do a better job of raising our kids to work in cooperation with one another, right? Ultimately, the character of our kids is underdeveloped. Our kids are not maturing fast enough. Part of the reason I think is that we put too much stock in the wrong things. How much of so we spend an exorbitant amount of time in our 20s trying to find ways to basically get the bag, or really what it is we're just trying to figure out ways to get rich, and we're trying to do it relatively fast too. I can't tell you, like my previous career, how many times I sat down with individuals or families, and they're talking about retiring at 40. Okay, but you're 30 now. You're gonna retire in 10 years. Okay, how much you got saved up? Well, $2,000. Most cases it was zero, but $2,000. That's not probable to happen. Okay, and even if you win the lottery, you're more likely to burn through that money anyway because we don't teach. One of the lessons that we don't teach enough in our community is about personal finance. Yeah, I get it. I took a course in real estate investing, or I watched a video about Bitcoin and I'm gonna buy some properties and all this other stuff. That's not all that stuff is related to you getting rich. That's not how you're gonna build wealth. Building wealth takes time. It's not something that you're gonna build. You're gonna just strike it rich, like a year or something like that. Being rich is something that you can lose over a summer with a bad habit. Wealth is actually generating assets that you can pass on to your kids and keep in your family. Most people struggle with that, especially today, because we burn so much time and effort on just getting rich to the point where it's what consumes us in our 20s instead of trying to build a family, instead of trying to build the characteristics that are going to benefit us in a marriage or / long-term relationship. How many times do you watch these panels and these videos and these interviews where people in their 20s are, I'm just getting to the bag, when statistically it's like, okay, no, you're not. You can talk about your business and whatever, but I know the numbers. That's why I don't never believe that stuff, man. You can talk about what you're doing for your business and I'm making all this money, whatever. Okay, but you might be, but most people are not. Most people in their 20s are living paycheck to paycheck. And we have to get over the fact that, yes, that's what's supposed to happen in your 20s. You're just getting out of college and you got an entry-level job. But that's also a great time to get married. Why? Because both of you guys are struggling. It's a lot easier to figure out why someone is with you when you have less. Remember, the more assets you have, the harder it is to vet somebody for long term.
That's
I can agree with that.
100% truth. What she just said. 100%. Can't even deny that.
So let me ask you a question. So, because Mistaken and I talk about this a lot, and I'm just playing devil's advocate because I know whenever we take it all women, men, do you think that both men and women need to be together?
Both need to what?
Remember how we talked about, we focus a lot on the women getting right. Because I personally believe that if men got right, the women will fall in place. Like they would have choice.
I'm putting together a show. Let me just say this part.
It takes both.
I'm putting together a show.
That's what I'm saying. It takes both. That's what I'm saying.
Well, yeah. I'm putting together a show because, naturally we hear that so much. I see it in the chat. Trigger Mike, why don't you talk to men? Why don't you talk to men? It's so weird, because it's not really an equal, not an equal problem. You don't hit it from the same way. I preface this by saying, I don't believe there are any more degenerates in proportion in today's society than there ever has been. It's just that women are fraternizing with them, and they never used to do that. You see what I'm saying? Men.
So to his point, men today are better off financially than any generation of men before us. We make more money than any generation before us. So this is where you need to call cap on some stuff, because what's really going on is it's like we have a generation that was raised to be soldiers in the gender war. So men and women today have trust issues with the opposite gender. When we talk about what's going on here with women, a lot of women do not trust the average man. Because they how many times you heard this? Well, he just doesn't make enough money. Enough money for what? Is the real question. What you're really saying is, well, he's not rich yet, so I don't want to mess with him. But you know what? Let me stop, because I don't want to go in the wrong direction here, because I can go off. That's the topic I can go in on it, and they might not be going in that direction. Let me hit play.
Men are soldiers. You can change a man into damn near anything. They are programmable.
You said you couldn't,
you
though.
can
I said
change
they helped me.
someone. You can change someone from an incel to a masculine, mature man going through an 8-week
Facts.
boot camp to serve your country in 8 weeks.
You told
Like,
me, but you just said when I asked about the help me that women don't bring that to the table. They can't assist with a man's progress.
what?
They
Wait,
can't.
I wasn't
Wait,
talking about a woman.
Oh, okay. Oh,
I don't. Okay, so
I regress.
I don't think that women can assist in the way that women think that they can assist, right? Because again, and Trigger Mike and I had discussed this previously. I think women's job is to inspire that man to be better, right? Don't do it for him. Don't mother him. Don't pick up that. But like to be the kind of woman that inspires that man to naturally want to be better, right? And I think that that's the helpmate part, right?
Yeah. And men hate that conversation.
That was another good
in
one.
these spaces. Men hate that only because I don't need no inspiration. Listen, that's what you get when you listen to a bunch of 1%ers talk. That's why they call 1%ers.
Right.
The W.E.B. Du Bois call it the
I call it rich man game. That advice works perfectly if you're already rich. But since the majority of us are not, then it falls into the line of mediocre to bad advice.
talented 10th. 1/10 of men will have the drive all on their own. Okay,
Well,
that is
hold on,
not
Trigger
most
Mike,
men.
Are you making my argument real?
No,
now?
no.
guys are spitting
Wait,
tonight.
you heard me say this before.
Oh, Enos, that
It
she
is,
2 for 2 on that
it is
last part.
literally the drive for most men, like Marcus said, to wake up every day and see that woman and those kids. That is his purpose for doing anything better than he did it the day before. That's the purpose of most men. Men will be like, well, you got to have a
Marcus.
drive on your own. Well, guess what? They don't. Because think about it, ladies. I always use this example. When you felt comfortable enough to go to that first man's apartment, what the hell did it look like? Was he living like Marcus and Boomerang? Because Marcus and Boomerang had his shit together. He prioritized being a top dog. No, that man's apartment had a futon. It might not even have been a bed in that. We can live very, very minimalist lives on our own. Big ass TV and a PlayStation. But put a woman in that house.
Nature. Yes, sir.
Put a woman in that house. And she says, let's make a home together. Why don't you take more hours and so we can buy this and we buy that? He said, you know what? You sure make this shit look good. I'll do that. That's what most men do. And that's who they do it for. So we can stop capping. Most men won't do nothing. Unless they want to furnish their woman house a little bit better. They got purpose now. She put a battery in their back to get up and go to work every day. Oh,
yeah, that's 100% true. It's really just about priorities. But this is why I'll also say that, I have to agree that it's rich man game is real. And these guys out here talking about, well, women shouldn't motivate you. You should just go do it on your own. Examine who's telling you that. And do they have a track record of coaching a substantial amount of men to get the same results that they have? In most cases, that's a no. Because again, a lot of these so-called coaches out here, you follow them because they're rich and they're getting their result and you want to get their results. But literally, there is a lot to be said about what it takes to get those results. This is why I also, why I'm not a big advocate for using salary as a way of measuring financial success, because that's not a good predictor. What you need to go by is net worth. What kind of assets does this person have, and how much debt are they carrying? Because again, look, that argument again, it's another topic. A lot of these topics are interlaced, and I'm not trying to go in. I'm trying to stick to the contents of the video we just watched. But I agree with Trigger Mike, but I also told you guys, because to get back on topic here, this is why I'm an advocate for getting married, and we need to lower the marrying age. But to do that, we've got to raise our kids to be, their relationship skills have to mature sooner so that they can be in the, so that they can be ready to build at a much younger age. Because as it stands right now, the average age for marriage is over 30. The problem with that is that geriatric pregnancy is right around the same age. So you literally are going down the aisle, leaving the church, and going right into trying to get pregnant and have a baby. And now that adds an added level of stress that most people are not ready for within the confines of a marriage, because you guys haven't built a solid foundation. This is why I say, if the marrying age were closer to 25, now you guys have some time that you can actually build a solid foundation. You guys can come up with a comprehensive plan as to who's going to take on what role in the relationship and what your financial plans are. It's a lot less stressful when you have a plan for having kids versus, oops, I'm pregnant. Oh, what do we do now? Oh, well, I don't know. Do we have the baby? I don't know. See, those questions are too stressful to be left up to chance. That's why you need to have. That's why you have to give yourself the opportunity, a chance to survive these things. Because again, while only 30% of black people are married in this country, you got to also remember that the vast majority of those marriages end in divorce within the first 5 years. Again, if the average marrying age is over 30, geriatric pregnancy is 35. Top 3 reasons for divorce: infidelity, lack of commitment, lack of communication. You add all that stuff in, and then you're gonna throw a kid in the mix. Personal opinion, you setting yourself up for failure. I'm not saying that you guys can't make it work, but why put yourself in that position? Why not? Why can't we just focus on raising our kids to be more mature in terms of relationship skills, so that they're able to get married sooner? Now, I know that there's some trust issues there, and there's some other parts of that we have to work out in order for those marriages to be successful. But again, I'm relating it to the video. If you guys want more information on that, leave a comment, because these things are important. All right? But I will say goes to the next time. Peace.